Hey everyone, welcome back to AI Insights. I'm your host for today, Fleur Prince, and I'm here together with my guest host for today, Nathan Kohl.
Hey guys, didn't catch it, but that was me waving. Nice to meet everyone.
So nice to have you here as the guest host for today. Can you tell a bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Nathan. I actually volunteer with Fleur at the Hague AI Hub for the Young AI Leaders community. And besides that, I work at Textkernel by Bullhorn. It's a company that works on recruitment and artificial intelligence, and I work there as an account manager. Uh, yeah, in my free time, I love to play video games or read books or watch movies related to science fiction. That's part of where my passion for artificial intelligence comes from, and part of why I'm here today to speak about AI. But yeah, just I come from sort of a background of both business and innovative technology like AI, and I mixed the two both in my job and volunteering and today this podcast as well.
It's so much fun having you here today to actually reveal something awesome because I think we were both watching it yesterday, the reveal of GPT.
Yes, I remember pulling up the live stream and sharing it with as many chats as I could possibly share it with. I think I sent like 10 messages on WhatsApp at the same time. But that is to prove my excitement for this product, which has been in the works supposedly for a year, maybe a year and a half now or more.
I remember when Sam Altman was coming on stage, I was like, oh my God, it's finally happening. GPT-5, here it comes, here it comes.
Exactly. I remember when we were speaking about GPT-5 as a rumor when 4.0 was coming out. So people were like, is this GPT-5? At the time it was 4.0, which was still very cool. Anytime there was a product released by OpenAI, everybody always expected online that it was basically GPT-5. And now it's actually here. But for a long time, that was not the sort of, let's say, the expectation.
No, I mean, the next thing we thought like GPT-5 was going to be the same thing as when GPT-3 came out in 2020. And we were all like, oh my God, what is this wonder that we can now use? Because I mean, this week there's been a lot of stuff happening. I mean, we even saw, besides GPT-5, also Genie 3 coming out. Which is, yeah, by Google DeepMind, where you can now just create any world using just a picture and you can literally walk around in it for
Yeah,
hours if you want to. And it will like remember also where a specific stone was that you maybe passed a few minutes ago.
exactly. Do you mind if you show maybe there's a clip there, I think, of one of yeah, maybe from,
I think this
yeah,
one
one
here,
of those, yeah.
so this is actually even a good comparison to Genie 2 and Genie 3, the difference between them. I think
Yeah,
here you can even see where they actually have a character just walk around in it. So the character from the picture is now walking around in it in a cyberpunk world.
yeah, indeed. I think the three main sort of, let's say, I think top capabilities that they ended up being able to upgrade from the Genie 2 to Genie 3 was, for one, the consistency, the length of the actual videos, and I think also, if I'm not mistaken, the like actual interactivity with the environment for like sort of to make sense about if something was, I don't know, if there was a door that it actually opens and that you don't just phase through the door, like glitching through the door as one of those like maybe
Yeah, now you can
older video
literally just
games.
grab it and walk through. And then
Yeah,
it
yeah,
tells you the
exactly.
second part of, yeah, what's behind the magical door.
Yeah, yeah. And I
Kind
think
of
also
almost
we
feels
had
like Narnia, to be honest.
like
What's
Narnia.
behind this door?
I think I watched that movie like almost a decade ago, but I loved it. It's an incredible movie. But yeah, indeed, I can see the echoes of that. Also, I think we got, speaking of new releases, Anthropic 4.4.1?
Yeah, Claude. Oh my God, I'm a massive fan of Claude just because it's saved me so many times writing long pieces because it can like literally copy your writing style. And I don't want to say do it for you. I mean, always make sure to read whatever comes out of it. But yeah, I saw it happening on the website. They were 2 days before GPT-5, Claude Opus 4.1.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think they were trying to get ahead of the release of GPT-5. I think it was released when OpenAI announced their open source model, OSS. I think they were trying to steal a little bit of thunder, which I can't necessarily blame them. I would do the same. So yeah, they would output this slightly upgraded version of Claude Opus, I believe, not Sonnet, which seems to have some incremental improvements. I haven't had the chance to test it out yet because usually my daily driver is either ChatGPT or Gemini, but I've heard good things.
No, true. You can definitely see here how it's improved from the last model. So, for example, indeed here the SWA bench just verified that's now, I want to say 2% more better than Opus 4.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
although I
always makes me
guess,
laugh a little bit when it's like 2% better now.
yeah, yeah,
But that
fair. I
2%
wonder,
changes a lot.
exactly. I wonder if it's like sort of if it's fair to call it a sort of exponentially increasing difficulty. Like the first 50% is really easy, or okay, not really easy, maybe that's an exaggeration, but it's easy, and then every percentage, every dozen percentages like become increasingly more difficult. I wonder if it's like that. Maybe like the remaining 10% is the hardest part of all this. Or maybe it's the inverse. Maybe it's just there's just a few barriers to actually achieving it, and then all of a sudden you've saturated the benchmark. I've seen both cases happen, to be honest. So I'm not sure which one applies to this benchmark.
So, for that, I would say you really need to be an engineer. Unfortunately, I'm just a
Or a
coder.
researcher.
Uh, or a researcher, that might also be good application. But of course, we're on this podcast, we're all about being Gen Z in AI. So, of course, one thing that we cannot avoid is actually checking our Reddit. Because you sent me a few posts before we started this podcast
Yeah.
about actually, because I think yesterday when it was done, I wrote an article about, oh, GPT-5 sounds really cool. I'm going to experiment with it more. This is what you can do with it. And now we're looking at the backlash online. So,
Yeah, I actually, yeah, exactly. I sent you a few posts because I really, really respect OpenAI and as a company and a great like I don't know how to say it. I've had a great usage of ChatGPT over the past 3 years since I've used OpenAI's products since, to be honest, like the first DALL-E, but at that time it was still experimental, but it was a lot of fun and very impressive. I was one of the first adopters, like day one of ChatGPT. I think it was November 2022, either November or October, but it was somewhere then. And I've always respected their approach a lot. I think it's definitely pushing the boundaries. I do have to say, I have at all levels of these past few releases that they've had, I've always seen positive reception, sort of middle reception, and some backlash. There's always some backlash. There's always going to be someone who doesn't find the new model helpful, or maybe they're just mad because they feel that I don't know, maybe it's a threat to them, or maybe they just don't like OpenAI as a company. To be honest, though, yeah, sorry,
I
go
know
ahead.
I wanted to say I love this comment that you actually sent through, which was like,
Pretty exaggerated, right? Or maybe not exaggerated, but it's pretty like harsh as a sort of comment. Like,
I mean, he did get an upvote of 562, so I do
true.
feel bad for the guy because he does say, I'm phenomenally disappointed because of my subscription.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I think it's if you look through the current state of the ChatGPT subreddit, it has around 11 million users now. Of course, on Reddit, not every user is always active, but I think it's quite shocking to see on both X and on Reddit, the two most popular social media for AI, I think. Maybe also LinkedIn, but I think those two have more of a sort of steady flowing conversation.
Hmm.
It's shocking to see sort of the amount of negative comments, but equally the upvotes on those comments. So it would be one thing if there's a bunch of like users just writing, I don't like GPT-5 because of X, Y, and Z. But there's like those posts, and then there's, I think one post has 4K upvotes, another one like, okay, it's nothing to sort of, I think, sort of ignore or laugh at because I have not seen this much backlash, to be honest, for a pass of recent memory for a past OpenAI release. Again, always backlash, but this strongly, I don't really remember seeing a reception like that. I was wondering, why do you think they have received this sort of reception from the community, even their own community, let's say, as the official or semi-official ChatGPT subreddit?
I think it's mostly to do with the like building expectations situation where so we're currently used to having ChatGPT doing simple tasks such as writing a post, writing a LinkedIn post, making an image, making a simple video. But that's only one task. But now people expected that okay, with multiple agents that so when GPT-5 got launched, that this would be a platform where you would have multiple agents who would be able to do a complete task. So you could say, become my case, become my social media manager. And that requires just that sentence. You just give it your LinkedIn accounts, your access code, you're done. It takes over. It comes everywhere for you without you having to do anything. I think that was mostly the expectation that people were expecting. Not that you're still you have still have to put stuff in just to have it do stuff.
Yeah, fair. Do you have that? I think there was like one with an image. Maybe it's this one right here. I remember seeing a Reddit post, which basically listed a bunch of things that did not come with the update, which a lot of people heavily rumored to come with the update. So
I think that was the one here. I found it. So
awesome.
that was written by Nipur. Let me see if I can share it. So that was this one. And he actually
Yeah,
so here GPT-5 gives shorter, more corporate answers, hits rate limits faster, lost personality, and doesn't follow instructions well. No model selection. I think this one is the most sad of all. You get GPT-5 or nothing. Like there's no choice anymore which model you want. You just get GPT.
yeah, yeah, exactly. This was one of the posts. I think this was another one of the ones that was quite popular in terms of upvotes. But have you also seen this one? I just put it in the chat right now.
I can share it. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can. We have too many links, Nathan.
Yeah, but it has been a crazy week, right?
Yeah. I mean, actually looking for a list that I'd made about actually all the updates that have happened the past few days. So yeah, this is I think the one that you meant.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure if these are maybe are actually active and we just don't know about them, or maybe they are planned to come out at a later time, or maybe there's a reason why they're not going to be active. But, obviously expectations are incredibly high. Again, it's been a year and a half since the first rumors, I think, of GPT-5 came around, maybe even more, because the wait time between 4 and 5 was pretty long. To be fair, OpenAI did release many, many, many models in between, especially reasoning models, which I think were an equivalent jump as we originally saw between 3 and 4. But
By the way, just
people,
listeners as well, just to narrate. So for those that are not watching the video that comes attached with the podcast,
Oh
the
yeah, sorry.
the Reddit note actually says, so the reason why people are hugely disappointed in GPT-5 is because there's no leading context window size, recent knowledge cutoff dates. There's actually less censorship. There's no native video outputs, no native video inputs, no native image input, no native image outputs, no native audio input, or no native audio input, which just makes that I think these are actually a good list of why people were disappointed in GPT.
I think there is the native image input to be fair, and output, I believe that just runs through like the sort of integrated DALL-E or the new image sort of GPT image, I think it was called, or IMG. But I do get the other things. I mean, for video, I don't think you can input video yet. At least I wasn't able to. And for output, you'd have to go through Sora, which is a
Mhm.
separate tool. For audio, I mean, yeah,
I
yeah,
can
I
just
know,
see
I
the
don't think,
disappointment on your face.
no, I think, to be honest, you know, I don't want to say I'm disappointed because I think that people set their expectations way too through the roof. I mean, basically they expected like not just an improvement, like an exponential improvement and the craziest thing ever, but they also have to remember that what they have to release is what was being worked on 6 months to a year ago. So obviously the current reality doesn't necessarily reflect the models that come out. So even though we may feel that the models are already supposed to be better, they're still working on it. I think what I'm a little bit, not, again, I don't like the word disappointed. I think it's a little unfortunate that for some users, like for example, for the paying users, they decided that they would take away older models. I
Mhm.
still think there is value. I understand from the perspective of like, we don't want to add all these server instances, right? Because it takes up space and you could just route everything to GPT-5. But I can also understand that some people have a value in using specifically O3 for their reasoning tasks, or specifically 4.5 for creative tasks, which it was very good at. And even if this model does most of those things very well, maybe it's slightly better or just as good. I do understand that the feeling like the loss of control over deciding what to use for people who for the past couple of years now have basically run this whole like prompting kind of sequence workflow,
Mhm.
and suddenly that just gets taken away from them, and now it's all about just asking the model to do things and hoping that it will deliver. I can understand how that's jarring from a sort of gap between the two things. Like you go from running most of these things by yourself, and then the model releases, and now it will do these things for you, but you maybe don't trust it to do those things yet. So I think they have a lot of ground to cover to sort of show people that, yes, the model will do it just as well as you could, and maybe they won't convince some people on that. So that I'm a little bit saddened by. I think I will miss O3, O4 Mini, O4 Mini High, and all those other
Like that
models.
should be a gravestone for them, to be honest.
There was actually some sort of party thing for, I think there was like a party for letting go of an Anthropic model. I don't know if you saw that. It was like on
No,
socials.
I have not seen that at all.
Yeah, I think it might have been it definitely was in the US, but I think maybe, or was it? Unfortunately, I can't remember the location, but they rented out some sort of location and then they ran this sort of, I think it was also in a way an artistic commentary, but they basically themed this sort of fest, let's call it, or event around saying goodbye to the model, I think like Claude free and Sonnet free since they're going to be discontinued. And it was funny because I'd imagine that those people aren't necessarily fully attached to those models, but I think they're making a statement of how you get used to these for a year and they do become part of your life somehow. They help you in your day to day. And then, yeah, they just get taken away. Even if it's fair, I can imagine that people are like, it does have maybe a toll on how someone views their freedom on the platform.
No, true. And I think what I noticed mostly about the GP5 applications that's really actually focused more on coders. Because if you look behind the screen when they started talking about, okay, these are the different things you can actually run it on, the outputs you could change that depending on how much you wanted it to. And was mostly focused on coders instead of per se the general user who uses it for, like I said, making a LinkedIn post, making a newsletter, looking for the favorite recipe.
Definitely. I think they really focused on code during the live stream. I mean, that was one of the major points. And I think what it doesn't necessarily, yeah, it's not like it's necessarily like, I think introducing a new paradigm where you're going from good code to flawless code that no person could ever build to that level. And I also don't think they advertise it as that, even though maybe some people hoped that it was that. But indeed, I think really if there was one word to describe GPT-5, it would be polish or polishing. I think it sort of, even if originally it was meant to be a huge leap, having these reasoning models, which are really incredible as like a jump, like O3,
Mm-hmm.
for it's just a huge jump. I think maybe they realized that on the normal line of GPT models, not the reasoning models, there's not infinite amount of space where they can just use the same architecture to do the grandest things. I'm just assuming here, but and I think they reasoned like let's just kind of start from scratch, or not from scratch, but let's go back to November, October 2022, and let's try and reimagine ChatGPT. So, given the past 3 years of development, what would ChatGPT look like if it launched today? And some of those things are like, okay, let's have like lot of models under the hood in the back end, and let's have one model that is deciding where, or multiple models that are deciding to what tools or what models to queries of the user go to. Or also the fact that you don't notice which model you are using based on your, let's say, rate limits. I think the usage is like, if you're a free user, you have, think like 80 uses. Maybe I don't remember correctly, but I think 80 uses every couple of hours of GPT. It might be lower than that, but I remember that there are some rate limits. 80 messages per 3 hours. I just made sure to check that so that I don't say anything that's not true for you guys. But yeah, so usually, right, you would have a message that would say you can't use O3 anymore until the end of the week. You've used your limit. Now, though, they're sort of in the back end, they're putting you on a model which is faster, but also maybe not as strong to conserve resources. And you don't necessarily notice, especially if you're a user on the free sort of plan.
Yeah, and if you're
But yeah,
someone, yeah, also if you're not someone who uses it on a regular basis for anything more than finding recipes.
yeah, exactly. I think we're going to have the reception be inverse. So usually most users, they don't really see the biggest difference out of all these updates because they have like a barrier to entry, which is the subscription to be able to see those changes until, of course, it transitions to the free plan. And usually it's all the paid users that are like celebrating. But maybe this time it will be the inverse, where the paid users are not as happy because they don't feel the change, but all the hundreds of millions of free users feel like they're using basically like ChatGPT 2.0, like a completely new ChatGPT, which they definitely weren't used to before.
No,
I
I
also, yeah,
think it
sorry.
also has to do totally with like all the updates that have been coming out the past, I think even the past 2 weeks, to be honest. I mean, we saw Google released Gemini 2.5, DeepThink, OpenAI added study mode into ChatGPT, Alibaba came out with Wen 2.2, Google launched Apple Earth Foundations. We also saw Mark Zuckerberg outlines Meta's superintelligence labs. Oh, there was, by the way, also this cool robot where figures showed actually F02 robot doing laundry.
We need that.
There was also Stargate Norway, runway new features actually, so you can now upload a video and actually make your own movie if you want to, just being one person if you know how to make the angles. Also, I found funny was Tim Cook saying that AI revolution is actually bigger than the internet, which I am actually thinking that might be true. Or Showrunner that just came out. I was actually one of the beta testers in that.
Okay, cool.
I don't want to say shitty shows, but like South Park level brain rot shows simply through a Discord server. This is like Mid-Journey, like when it just came out, but then for AI movies.
Okay, I see.
You get access to it. By the way, I would definitely recommend just playing with it. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But that's what I said. Like, this is a huge list that I'm just dumping now on everybody. But that's just like all these things have been coming out, and then you have Then I do understand slightly when you get GPT-5. Okay, that's it. But yeah, what you said for paid users, it might be like, okay, I've already had access to this all this time. I'm looking for something more. But for everyone who refuses to pay for ChatGPT, it's a huge
Yeah,
difference ish.
exactly, right? And I think, like philosophically, I don't know if OpenAI can always stay as like the research lab mentality of like we're gonna push out frontier things, which maybe from a user perspective are not necessarily super easy to understand the value proposition right away. But then our we have a subset of users, our champions who believe like or like are able to do some really, really cool things with it. I think it's natural. I mean, many organizations go through this shift, right, where they start out with their innovators and they don't have to think as much of the general public. And sometimes that's very freeing because you can kind of put out anything, even if it's not 100% fully, not all corners are covered because you know that your users will use it anyways and they will usually love it and like champion it. But then there was also a point where, for example, Microsoft or Apple themselves, right, they had to go to the mainstream. And you could obviously see the difference between those two periods,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be very jarring. But if you think about what is the ultimate mission of OpenAI, bringing AI to as many people as possible, technically they are playing by their mission. I mean, even if us power users, us paying users, we feel, hey, this is not what we expected, it's not as big of a leap as you supposedly were hinting at. But then again, if I want to bring AI to everyone, I have to keep in mind like what is going to like someone's parents, right? Or someone's grandparents or a local, for example, teacher or government administrator, like what is their experience going to be with like ChatGPT day to day? How can I make sure that it's a little bit like the smartphone? Obviously, most adults were not using the smartphones when they first launched, and it took Apple to sort of introduce something that was polished enough, going back to that keyword, that everybody just could now get it. And yeah, what would you think of sort of the idea of them polishing these corners and making sort of the quote unquote perfect product?
I think the perfect product never exists, but for me, this felt like the first time they actually stuck to the mission that they originally started, which as when they were a nonprofit at the time, which was making sure that AI is available for everyone. I think that's the first time I actually saw it reappear in this presentation at all. And in GPT, like it's now accessible for everyone. There's no difference if you pay or if you don't pay. Well, probably that you have more tokens. But there's availability. Anyone can use this. All you need is a laptop, you need internet access, you're done. And I think that's the most important takeaway also of GPT-5, that it's now available for everyone. And I think that's also something that we have to close off with because we are out of time. Anyways, thank you so much for being a guest host today on the podcast. It was really fun having you, Nathan.
My pleasure.
I hope everyone, you got a bit more wiser about GPT-5, its capabilities, and the pros and cons that have been showing around the internet. Hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out through us through our LinkedIn page or leave a comment behind on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you for listening. See you next time.